record so that I know it's doing its thing. So welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a few moments. And while we're waiting, I'm going to untangle my headphones here and put them in. Hello, hi, Cynthia. Welcome. Oh, Sarah's back. Hey, hey, Sarah, I saw you got bumped out. Cool. Okay, so Candace is joining. Sweet. Welcome, Candace and Amy. Yeah, you guys can go ahead and mute your microphones, mute your video. I'm going to mute myself too soon-ish. I just thought, just for the very beginning of this first call, I know it's nice to kind of see a face too. So you can see a face. Great. I'm super excited to get started. I feel like there might be a couple more that'll join us live. I know the time zones are super tricky, especially with women in Australia. I find those to be the hardest ones. So that's like a 14-hour time zone difference. Anyways, welcome. Okay, so today is call 1 for Patriarchal Power Plays and the Pleasure Pioneer. I'm excited to dive in. So how is this going to work? So basically for today, because it is the first call, I'm going to like open up a little bit of space for the container and just make sure that the container over the 8 weeks feels, you know, like we've got our intention set. I've been feeling Goddess Ayana a lot, like really close the last few days. So that's wonderful. So we'll, and you know, and you're more than welcome to call in any, you know, sacred allies or spiritual helpers or goddesses or whoever and whatever it is that you feel called to bring into this space with you for this journey. Of course, that's welcome. So I'm going to do my headphones here and hope this thing doesn't pop up the pod. Okay, we're good. Okay, so this might be it. We'll see. So yeah, welcome. Okay, good. Oh, and then there's one more. Let's see. James's iPad. Who's James? I feel like I've seen that before. Anyways, welcome, whoever James's iPad is. Sweet. Okay, so most of the time, I'll keep these to like, you know, pretty much like 60 minutes, which is perfect for a deep dive through the Akashic field, through the Akashic records. Today we might run just a smidge over because I want to open up space and set a few intentions, and then we're going to dive into this journey, Patriarchal Power Plays and the Pleasure Pioneer. So basically what's going to happen is I kind of listen before the call. A lot of what comes through from the fields. I'm going to drop in and kind of anchor in the divine feminine, like that archetypal energy of the divine feminine. My embodied wisdom will flow through, but a lot of times it's like the field is speaking and giving us the medicine and the wisdom that is for the highest good of the collective energy that's meeting for this journey. So it's lots of fun, and I kind of tune in before the circle, or sorry, before the space, before the transmission, to get a sense of like where it's going. Of course, there's already an intention for what it is that I'll be pulling through. And then I'm just going to kind of channel what wants to come through. A lot of times with this work too, it's very visual. Like I see it very visual. There can be different symbols. So if you've got your journal handy for these, great. If you want to grab, you don't have to do this today. You could do it in your journal. But in the future, if you want to have like, you know, sheets of paper, like today I just have like computer sheets of paper, because sometimes what happens is that like a symbol will really stand out, and you can go ahead and just like draw that symbol. You don't have to be an artist. You just sketch it out, like let your inner child kind of just like plop down whatever the symbol is. And the symbols can become they're very activating, and they offer a transmission in and of themselves, because there's a layer of the shamanic aspect that's happening here, where symbols become the language of the soul that speak to us at a subconscious level. So when we start extracting the symbols from the field, we can work with them. So we can put them on a sheet of paper. You can put them in your altar space or in your home. But also what I often notice too, and I had this happen this morning when I was kind of tuning in, I had some symbols come through, and the symbols at first didn't make much sense. But over the morning, I saw a symbol on like a perfume bottle, right? And then I saw the symbol somewhere else. And I started to notice how the shape was showing up in different ways. And it gave me clues to different messages that I was kind of working through for some embodied wisdom, for guidance for my own journey. So do that. Have fun with this. This is an opportunity to, to develop your own psychic awareness, your own intuition, your own shamanic abilities to guide your journey. And once the container is set, and I really truly I believe once payment is made and you've like said, yes, I want in on this journey, the medicine starts to work. So we're on this journey, and we just want to pay attention as we move through the next 8 weeks to where the medicine is showing up, like where it's kind of like seeping into our awareness, and it becomes a very co-creative medicine journey. So you're just paying attention and noticing what you're noticing, and you're putting the clues together. And it's very, very powerful. The transmissions and the way everything comes through the field, through the session today, or the transmission today, and all 8 of them, it's like logically receive it, but also know that like at a deeper level, you're receiving, higher dimensional wisdom that often goes beyond logic, and you'll feel it. And so just let the medicine do its job. The other really cool thing is that you can come back to these audios like over and over again. I've found by accident, I was actually just, I had, what was I doing on SoundCloud? I was organizing some of these Akashic like transmissions that I do in a group space. And I had one on in the background while I was like working. And all of a sudden I'm just like getting these like, these ahas and like insight. And I'm like, I could feel the field open, and my Akashic record was open. And I was like, dang, it really does work like that. And I was getting different awarenesses and different insights. So it's like the spiral, right? You can come back to these and go deeper into your dark feminine through these transmissions. All right, so that feels good. Cool. All right, so I'm recorded. So let's go ahead and you get to receive. You get to receive it all. If for some reason you do have a question, definitely pop it in chat or a share. That's cool too. And also, if you have questions or reflections, or you want to share your art or whatever in the Facebook group, I'm more than happy to witness you as a guide for this journey. All right, so why don't we, without further ado, go ahead and you can close your eyes and drop your chin if you'd like to. And I'm just going to open up a little bit of space with a guided visualization. A little bit of a prayer. And so we'll go ahead, just going, to the dark space within. You can even see, the way that I'm seeing it is like this really beautiful, safe cave within. And that cave will look different for everyone. It could be full of crystals. It could be full of rocks and sticks. It could be full of really beautiful materials. But just allowing yourself to just drop into that cave space. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a breath in through the nose and down into the belly. And out through the mouth. And we'll do that breath 2 more times, bringing it to the count of 3. And you can just visualize, a really soft breeze. And with that soft breeze, all of these old leaves, they're all, yellow and maybe orange or starting to brown, and they just kind of like fall off the tree and they flutter around you. And they're fluttering and they're dancing around you. And with that, it's just cleansing and purifying your auric field of all emotions, of all thought patterns that are not yours. And the leaves are still dancing around in this really beautiful golden halo of playful, swirling energy. And you can see all that is ready to be transmuted. Just start to lift up and towards the sky, transmuting to divine love and light, and then releasing it fully back to source. And we'll go ahead and see ourselves seated on beautiful, nutrient-rich, dark soil. Soil that is so nutrient-rich that you can almost feel the earth breathing through it. And you're just going to allow yourself to sink into that. My throat's doing something funny. And really allowing yourself to be held by the earth, by all her beauty, by all her dark power, by all the elements. And you can even just kind of reaching your hand down, touching the soil, knowing that you are an intrinsic part of Mother Earth. That same power and beauty that she has, you have. So go ahead and visualize a gold door about 50 feet above your head, and we'll let that gold door swing open. And then down cascades just one big tendril of gold light, and you're going to drop it in front of you. And you're going to see that big tendril of gold light. Again, it's just going to circulate in front of you, but this is a really big golden tendril of light. And it's magnetizing to it all the thought patterns, all the emotions that are not yours, that have been picked up from the collective, that you're complete with, all illusions, all mind viruses, everything that is dense, dark, and heavy that is not yours. You're just going to let that gold tendril of light magnetize all of that to it. It's going to circulate around you, and it's moving it up towards the door, all to be transmuted to divine love and light and released fully back to source. I'm going to go ahead and call down the temples of divine love, divine light, divine truth, divine abundance, divine wisdom, and divine power to descend around us now and everyone who'll be listening to these transmissions in the future. And calling in our guides, our teachers, our masters, the goddesses, and the goddesses in particular that I feel really called to call in are Goddess Isis, Goddess Ayana, Goddess Sekhmet, Mary Magdalene, Goddess Pili, Goddess Kali, calling in all of our helpers, calling in the elementals, calling in the archetype of the divine feminine. And the Akashic guides to be here now and to be with us and hold a beautiful, powerful, clear, strong, protective, energetic vortex, not just for these calls, but for our entire journey over the next 8 weeks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Setting the intention for the highest good of ourselves, for myself, for the highest good of all the women on the call, all of the women who'll be listening to this call in the future, all of the sisters in this container with us who are doing this journey. Banishing all negative influences, should there be any, asking this to be a divinely protected space where only the highest frequencies of love and light shall exist. And I'm going to call on Archangel Michael, 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 Archangel Michael. And I'm going to ask for all cords, hooks, and energetic attachments that are running from myself. And you're more than welcome to invite Archangel Michael into this space for you as well, to clear all cords, hooks, and energetic attachments that are running from us to any other person that is not in alignment with their highest good. And you can see the beautiful blue cobalt sword just kind of running over the chakra system and just clearing all cords, hooks, and energetic attachments. And again, asking this to be a beautifully protected space where only the highest frequencies of love and light shall exist, where we may anchor into a clear space of divine truth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So it is. So at this point, if there's just any intentions that you have for this journey, and you can just take a minute, hand over heart, hand over womb, and you can jot that down in your journal. If you have none but other to just be here with an openness to discover, then beautiful. But if there's any other intentions that you have, definitely write that down. And with that, we'll go ahead and start moving into connecting and opening to the Akashic field. Something you want to notice too is your awareness of being in the Akashic field now. We're not quite there yet, but once we are, just noticing where you're at in terms of how you see, sense, and feel in the Akashic field and with the records today. And then 8 weeks from now, we'll check in again. So we'll go ahead. I'm bringing our focus to the energetic womb space, the womb space, or the sacral being 2 inches below the belly button. And you can even place your hand over your womb space. And we'll just see golden light start to swish and swirl through the energetic womb space, dissolving any energy that feels dark, dense, or heavy. Any energy that feels, any energy of creative projects that you're complete with. We're gonna get the gold light to dissolve that. And then we're just gonna go ahead and bring that gold light down through the core of the body, down through all the layers of earth and crust and soil and root and rock, right down to the core of Mother Earth, anchoring it around a piece of jade crystal. And then all that beautiful Mother Earth energy, that core energy, we're going to bring it up through all the layers of earth and crust and soil and root and rock, right through the bottoms of the feet, through the legs, into the energetic womb space. And you can take a breath as you do that. And then just letting all that energy on the exhale just move throughout your whole body. And we'll bring our focus to the heart space, and you can go ahead and see a magenta rose. And we're going to see the magenta rose bloom open. And from there, going ahead and seeing the golden grid of the flower of life begin to expand and swirl out from the heart space located at the center of the chest. And we're going to let that pure wisdom and high frequency light, the radiant divine substance of all of life that's interwoven into all of life, begin to permeate and infuse itself within us, out from us, all around us, and into the Akashic field. We're going to let this light continue to grow, expand, and interpermeate with the physical and non-physical reality that exists before us, all around us, and within us. And we're going to let this radiant divine substance of all of life that flows through all things continue to flower and expand from the heart chakra. And then just seeing, sensing, feeling now is the doors to the Akasha, and all the wisdom and love of the Akasha open to you now. And then just allowing yourself to feel held in the sacred field of the Akasha. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I'm just going to ask the Akashic Guardians as well to open up the Akashic record of every woman on the call today and every woman who'll be listening to this call in the future. And if this works for you, you simply just have to say yes. All right. So let me just tune in here. I want to see, because this is our first call, I'm wondering if I want to give just a little bit of background on, and I'm just going to tune in, and I'm going to shut my camera off. It's just a little bit of distraction. There we go. All right, so when I start to tune in to even just the word patriarch, and we have, I'm sure all by now, heard this word used in many different ways, many different times. Working with the Akashic records and doing, you know, like over 5,000 sessions over the last decade, it's given me, I think, a really unique frame of reference around what the patriarch is and how it influences how we move through this physical experience. So typically with my work, I speak a lot about the divine feminine, but this is also the patriarch when we talk about you know, rooting into just our sovereignty as human beings. It is so much about the awakening of the divine feminine. And I believe most of the time it starts with the awakening of the divine feminine, because it's the energy that's been suppressed on the planet for a long time, for 5,000 years, or maybe even more. And so when I speak of the patriarch and the words that keep coming through, the words that they kind of want you to know, I see control and I see suppression. So those are the dominant energies that the patriarch often works with: control and suppression. And I see the patriarch as a consciousness, and a consciousness that we're all really affected by. So it's this journey of untangling where patriarchal limitation, influence, and consciousness has entangled itself into the true liberated expression of what it means to be sovereign beings. So it's about, you know, coming into this beautiful sacred union of this powerful dance between the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So as far as I can see it, the patriarch, you know, this consciousness really seeded in about 5,000 years ago. And I'll give you a little bit of background history from what I know and understand from different Akashic mentors, but also working in the Akashic records for many, many years now. It's a particular soul group that came onto the planet a long time ago, 5,000 years ago. It created a lot of imbalance on the planet. And so there's a name of this soul group, but I really don't want you to get too caught up in like the name of the soul group. So it's really at a base level, it's a consciousness, and it's a consciousness that rules through control, fear, separation, and the suppression and limitation. And it's created a huge like field of illusion that we've been operating in for a long, long time. So the soul group, and I'll just touch on this and we'll move on, because we want to talk too about patriarchal power plays, right? And how to shift beyond that so that we really can anchor into our divine feminine birthright to lead and exist from a place of prosperity, from pleasure, from our raw power, and really from a place of sovereignty where our true liberation and freedom exists. So we're in this place of reclamation, of really, you know, untangling how that influences who we are. And I'm just going to tune in. I'm also going to drink a lot of water. So when I say the words control and suppression, first of all, let's go there. What do those words mean to you? Where do you feel it in your body? And just take a moment and just reflect on those words. Like, where do you feel control and suppression in your body? Where do you feel like that might exist for you in the scope of your reality at this point? And you just want to jot it down in your journal or just simply reflect on it. So we've had a long experience with the patriarchal consciousness, with the patriarchal limitation that has existed on the planet. And so we've had many, many past life experiences with the patriarch that rules through control, fear, limitation, suppression. So not only have we had a lot of past life experiences with the patriarch, we have also had, we have our ancestral lineage that's also had experiences with the patriarch. And so it's created a lot of imbalance, and it's created a lot of wounding that sits at a very DNA level. So we start to clear and untangle all that wounding and all of where the patriarchal consciousness has started to entangle itself in the scope of who we are as divine feminine beings having this human experience. And it shifts the way we experience our reality. Okay. Okay, so that feels good. And I'm just going to tune in again and see where the field wants to take us and what we want to untangle today. Okay, so I'm being guided to the word pleasure. And one of the ways I like to, and like one of the most powerful ways that we can drop back into or root into our divine feminine power center, our source of pleasure, is yoni, is pussy. So just in this space, going ahead, and I'm going to give you just a little bit more background information too on just some of the ways that I connected the dots personally around this piece. If we look at all of the wounding and that even our ancestors on both our masculine lineage and both our feminine lineage experienced, the trauma of the limitation, suppression, control, and even lack from patriarchal influences over many, many hundreds of years. We can look at the matriarchal lineage being the the left leg. And then the patriarchal lineage, our masculine lineage, running up the right leg. So it kind of is like, it's like if we were a tree, it would be like, those are our trunks and that's our lineage. And it runs right up to the root chakra, which is also where yoni sits. So one of the ways that we begin to shift a great imbalance that has existed on the planet for a long, long time is by honoring the potency and power of yoni. Yoni being the pleasure center. So thousands of years ago, in the very beginning, when this great imbalance started, when this great imbalance began, The feminine was suppressed. And what happened is that we tipped into a hyper masculine society for the most part. So when we exist, and you can see, where how much you relate to this, but when we exist in the wounded masculine or the hyper masculine, so the feminine was suppressed and then we tipped over into an imbalanced masculine, which led to a disconnect from our feminine nature, from feminine values, and into more of, well, oftentimes a war culture, but also a go, 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 do, 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 hustle, work hard. And we lost the center and source of beauty, of power, of pleasure, of prosperity that was based on balance, but also on feminine values. So Yoni teaches us a lot about reconnecting to, for me, she became a really beautiful wisdom guide. And also began teaching me about how to root into my feminine source of power and how to lead from a place of pleasure. And working with women, and you'll notice, just in the field as we journey together over the next 8 weeks, it's like we have wisdom centers all over our body that don't exist at the level of logic, right? That don't exist at the level of like just doing and hustling, right? Our power really is anchored in the presence. And Yoni teaches us that too. Right? Our pleasure and presence is power. So go ahead and so bringing it back to these wisdom centers, we have wisdom centers that run all over our body, and we'll be connecting to, the wisdom of womb, the wisdom of heart. Our body is a really beautiful, intelligent mechanism that can lead our lives as women. But going ahead, just in this space, and you can just place your hand over Yoni. And you're just going to feel what you feel in the scope of the field. And wherever you're at in terms of how comfortable this does or doesn't feel for you is perfect. It doesn't matter. It's a journey, and we go deeper and deeper into the spiral as we go. But just feeling the beautiful power, the creator power, the destroyer power, and how our bodies are built for pleasure. Our bodies want to lead from a place of embodied pleasure, and that it's safe to lead from a place of pleasure. And when we lead from a place of pleasure, we start to build in more nourishment. We start to build in more flow. We start to trust what feels good and what feels good and right for us. We stop searching for our pleasure externally and know that we're the source of our own pleasure. So in this space, go ahead to, and you may or may not have creative supplies, but you can go ahead and just like listen for any messages that Yoni might have for you around pleasure. And you can place your hand there and you can just start listening. It might be a word or two. And you might want to draw like an oval shape. And the Sanskrit word yoni actually means the creative sexual power of a woman. So you can draw an oval symbol. You can make some notes, just any wisdom or guidance or just any form of expression that wants to come through. And this doesn't necessarily have to be, it could be upset. It could be it could be a feeling of disconnect or just like numbness. It doesn't matter. I mean, we want to be able to give ourselves full permission to just feel what the message is and the wisdom is that exists there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move into untangling any group blocks that are coming up. It feels like this is the perfect time to look at doing that. So a disconnect from pleasure. Okay, so this is, we're clearing out blocks around a disconnect from pleasure. And it's always kind of, you know, where can we go? Where can we root into? Where can we become more embodied in our pleasure? Where can we allow ourselves to receive more pleasure? You know, and so much of that comes through being curious, being open, being playful, allowing ourselves to be experimental. And in all the forms of pleasure. Right? Like pleasure can be, you know, pleasure can be joy, can be fun, right? Where can we allow ourselves to receive more pleasure? Okay, disconnect from pleasure. So let's go ahead and look at what is coming up in terms of group clearing. And just go ahead and check in with your body. You know, maybe you just want to, you know, bring your hand to your thigh or your hand to your heart. Breathing in any places that maybe feel like they just need a little bit of love. All right, so, okay, so what I'm being shown is a pact. This feels actually perfect. And there's a message coming through too. And so this is just, you want to write this message down and you want to pay attention over the next week where this may show up for you. But the message is that it's like, it's safe to have my pleasure. My pleasure is mine. One of the things, you know, we want to also just pay attention to over the next week is as we start to root into a new sense of self, we start to follow the energy of pleasure, and we start to build in and source more energy from within. Your energy, your power, your pleasure is yours. And just because you have a lot of it doesn't mean you have to give it. In the past, particularly with the feminine, it's been, we've had a lot of, you know, more of the wounded masculine aspect where our sexuality or our energy or our power or our pleasure, if we were turned on with it and full with it, it would have been demanded. And in a lot of circumstances, we would have unconsciously have given it. So we really want to be aware of, and as we move into, you know, some other layers around really anchoring into the womb and the wisdom and the messages there, we'll look at other layers of this. But the message that comes through is that it's safe to build it. It's safe for it to be yours, and to give it when it works for you. All right, so let's go back to this pact. Okay, so the pact, the first thing that I'm seeing is, you know, our original, a lot of our original in terms of this present life physical experience, this is interesting, comes from the relationship dynamic of our mother and father. And so I'm seeing the way that this pact is showing up. I'll see where this plays in. And a pact is basically, these show up as unconscious relationship agreements that we've basically made for personal gain. And what often happens is that we are navigating some type of a trauma or some type of a negative or difficult experience, and we are feeling insecure, right? So instead of having our sense of security cultivated from within, from our relationship with self or spirit, we lean on another person to get that insecurity met, and it's vice versa. So whoever is showing up in that physical experience, it's vice versa, and it creates it's a pact. It's a relationship agreement made for personal gain, and it creates a lopsided relationship dynamic, which really essentially what we're looking at are codependent patterns. Patterns that take us outside of ourselves based on a need for safety, acceptance, love, or approval. So we want to look at clearing those. These are really important to clear, because as we clear them, it allows us to drop into our sovereignty, who we are as powerful, divine, feminine women, creating life on our terms. We're sovereign. We have everything we need within us. And it's not that we don't have partnerships. We absolutely do, but we're operating from a place of sovereignty. So it clears up a lot of the energetic threads and dynamics that can take us outside of that. So let's look at this pact. And so I'm seeing this. So just taking a moment and reflecting. It's interesting that this is a pact and that I'm not being presented yet with a past life visual, that this is actually more of a present lifetime visual. But just taking a moment and reflecting on the relationship that your mother and father had, as best as you can, or, you know, just different relationships. Maybe, you know, your parents were divorced at a really young age, or you maybe lost a parent at a young age. Just whatever that primary relationship example would have been in the scope of your experience. And in this space, just noticing, you know, what you loved about what you saw, but also where you, you know, even as a child may have sensed that things just weren't right. Maybe they didn't feel healthy. Maybe they didn't feel balanced. I mean, you don't even have to know exactly why, but just taking a moment to reflect on that. And then what I'm being shown in the records too is like the patterns, like the template. It's like the template of the parental dynamics that we had gets replicated to a degree. So, okay, so we're just going to notice what we notice about that. And then I want to look at what this pact is wanting to open up for us and how this all ties together, and it will tie together. So I'm still being shown this pact. Yeah, and so the pact, the way that I'm seeing it already, is about power struggles in relationship dynamics. Power struggles in relationship dynamics. And a lot of the power struggles in relationship dynamics, and the piece that's really coming through around this, has to do with lack of communication around the true needs and wants of each person. And that would depend on the wounding that we have in terms of our ability to be intimate with our partner. So this pact, so let me just see, I'm going to pull up here. So is this And we're going past life with this pack. I'm just going to ask the Akashic Guardians, are we going past life with this pack? Yes, we are. Okay. So here it is. So here we're going past life. The story will be, it won't be exact for each person, but it'll resonate for each person. And you take the pieces that resonate for you, and then we'll clear out the blocks that are showing up specific to you in the Akashic record. Okay, so the story that's presenting itself is it's a couple. The woman is sad, and she has some kind of a headpiece on, and there's a very strong kind of like dominating masculine presence. And the strong masculine dominating presence isn't listening to the female that he's in relationship with, and she doesn't necessarily feel safe to share or to speak her deeper sadness or her deeper needs or her deeper wants. And this is a really great example of where oftentimes the feminine can be suppressed within a relationship, and where the wounded masculine and patriarchal consciousness can create a real imbalance and sense of separation. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at, okay, so we're looking at this pact. And so can you show me where this pact was created? Okay, so the pact was created between this woman and her mother. Okay, this would be a common story. So this woman and her mother. And it's the pact has a real energy of like secrecy. Keeping secret about our pain and our suffering, and keeping secret about our pain and our suffering. And the reason that this pact was created between the mother and the daughter, and we're just noticing, where there's some resonance of this in the scope of your own experience, is because the mother had pain too. Right? She didn't necessarily have the tools to be able to give to her daughter, to be able to express herself, to be able to take a stand for her emotions, to take a stand for her wants. And so her mother also really felt this sense of sadness, of a disconnect from her feelings, her needs, and her wants. And this is so interesting too, because we're bringing it back to a place of like pleasure, right? And where there's been a disconnect from feeling, and feeling our deeper emotions is definitely an aspect of that. When we can feel those deeper emotions, and we can move through them, when we can transmute them, it creates a space for us to go deeper into our pleasure centers. We're able to connect into, we can feel, our ability to feel is amplified. But oftentimes what happens is that we need to be able to transmute and also value our deeper emotions. We have to be able to take a stand, and this is actually like where the dark feminine will often get our attention, is where we're not listening to our deeper emotions, where we're not allowing ourselves to have our deeper emotions, where they've been downplayed by, a patriarchal society that often will push past, right? Will push past the deeper emotions, will numb out, will work hard, will work to avoid, right? The dark feminine invites us into the depths of who we are to feel. And so this pact, it's a pact that's being cleared out at the matriarchal level too. Like this is soul level, but I can feel this at the matriarchal level as well. Just the strands of patterns of suppression and control that we've allowed, that have been carried forward into our current experience. And this is a beautiful place that I love to work in, because of the timeline healing effect. When we really start to dissolve and transmute what's been carried forward, it heals backward and forward through our lineage, backward and forward through time. So I'm going to bring it back to this pact and the pact. So there's always, and this is a beautiful opportunity to look at where there's strands of these codependent patterns showing up in your own life. We're going to clear this. So if I'm looking at this pattern this pact that was created between the mother and the daughter, and I'm just going to have some more water. And I also want to say this is definitely not a bashing of men at all. I truly believe that that patriarchal consciousness affects all of us. And even when I'm looking at this example of the masculine and the woman, like I can see where patriarchal consciousness, the wounded masculine, where the male is operating from a place of woundedness. So there's a beautiful reharmonizing that happens within ourselves, our own internal energetic masculine and feminine dynamics. They rebalance. We clear out any of the trauma from the patriarchal influences, and then it reharmonizes and rebalances internally within us. We get to deepen into and reclaim the essence of our own divine feminine, and it has a rebalancing and reharmonizing effect in our external relationships as well. And it's really beautiful, and I've seen it over and over again. Okay, so codependent threat patterns. So let's go back to this pact. You can go ahead to, maybe we'll just like take a breath, feeling where you're feeling in this body, which is in your body. And the Akashic records, specifically with this method too, we're working at the level of the body, we're working at the cellular level. So we're letting our body have a chance to just process and speak. Beautiful, lovely, lovely. Okay. Okay, going back to this pact. So I'm just going to zoom in now into the relationship dynamics that exist, that are showing up there. Okay, so in that lifetime, this lifetime that's being presented to ourselves, to the space, the woman felt very isolated, and she felt very isolated and didn't know how to access the power of her own internal, basically the language of her emotions. So I'm seeing the mother and the daughter. The daughter's really leaning on the mother, because in that space of sadness, they can really identify with each other. And while neither of them feel like they necessarily have the tools to be able to process, release, and transmute what it is that they're feeling, and understanding the intelligence of what they're feeling, they kind of are able to relate and find comfort in the space of that woundedness. So I'm going to just go over to the mother, and this is the nature of codependent patterns. And so if I go over to the mother, let's see here, the mother feels like she doesn't necessarily have a lot of choice available to her in her life at that point. And It almost feels too like the mother doesn't necessarily have a relationship that's great with the father, and so she's feeling really isolated and alone as well. But what I'm noticing and what I'm seeing about the way that this is being presented is that neither have had the guidance or the tools to connect deeply into the essence and beauty of who they truly are, and to understand how to land in a place of power when it comes to taking a stand for who they are and creating the life that they know would honor them. And this word honor feels really important right now. So go ahead and just write down the word honor, like, and even like bringing this back to a place of pleasure, like what really honors me. And I always say, like, a wealthy choice is a choice that honors you as a sacred woman, honors your needs, honors your wants, honors your desires. So we can't ever go wrong. And oftentimes we don't, depending on what our coded patterns are, where our trauma is, oftentimes over the course of our experience, we will have made, and when we know better, we do better, but we've made choices out of sacrifice, out of staying with people in their pain, out of a need to feel safe, instead of making choices that would truly, truly honor us, and choices that would move us forward in the direction of a life that just feeds us and honors us as sacred women, honors our values, honors feminine principles, honors our pleasure. And I've seen this apply to, it applies to business, it applies to relationships, it applies to the home, it applies to our communities. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask that this pact, where it is showing up in whatever timeline for each woman on the call and each woman who will be listening to this call, that the essence, energy, and creation of this pact be cleared right to the point of creation, backwards and forwards through time, through all spaces, realities, timelines, and dimensions, and that it be transmuted to divine love and light and released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and so it is. All right. So the word voice, honor, and pleasure all really stand out as a way to voice, honor, pleasure as a way to shift beyond control and suppression. I'm going to tune in a little bit more. We still have a little bit more to go here. We're right at 12, but there's just a few more pieces that want to land with everything that I'm saying. I'm going to have a little bit more water. So, and go ahead as well, and we're just breathing. Any place in your body that, again, it feels heavy or dense. We're just breathing, and if you need to move a little bit, you can move. Just letting all of this upgrade in our system, so that, moving forward, it's like we know that it's safe to honor ourselves, to make choices that honor us. And the thing is that, and I've, working with many, many women through life transformation, these these pacts and codependent patterns and different relationship dynamics that we have, especially with our mothers and our sisters, and when we're traveling the path of the soul and we're saying yes to greater, to like more truth, to more freedom or liberation, is that we have, we have these matrices, especially at the family unit level. And it's like, we don't logically necessarily see, know, and sense. Like, but at a deeper level, there can be apprehension around shifting our vibration into a space where we're more fed, we're more nourished, we're living from an embodied space of like pleasure, like a static living, which is hard to do if we have, maybe a mother or like a sister who haven't maybe quite found their footing with that yet. And of course, we live in this universe of free will and free choice. And, sometimes, they may never. Everyone's on their own journey. But what I have found when we clear out pacts and we start to unravel these strands of codependent behaviors and patterns, is that it gives us a permission to move forward. And so I just want you to, in this space, if it feels good and timely for you, to just whisper like a silent yes to giving yourself permission to showing up more fully, more embodied, more in your power than ever before. And then knowing, and I've seen, this is the piece that I wanted to kind of weave in here. What I've also seen is that when we do give ourselves permission, and the reason that we don't is often because we feel a sense of loyalty and we feel at a deeper level like we might be leaving those we really care about, those that might be struggling, or maybe, stuck in some of those deeper, heavy emotions, that we might be leaving them behind or doing them a disservice, or that we're not caring, especially if, if you're someone who has some caretaking patterns. I know I can totally relate to that. But we're not. As we really give ourselves this permission to move forward and to really allow ourselves to drop into what it means to be a fully powerful and liberated woman at this time on the planet, it often is a vibrational shift. We let go of that old energy, and it allows others around us to move through their own stuff, right? The patterns that once were keeping two people stuck aren't there. And it offers them the opportunity to move through and process some of their stuff so that they can move forward too. And this is a powerful piece that I honestly have seen happen over and over and over again. It is safe to choose you, your own freedom, your own pleasure, your own power, your own liberation. So we're just silently whispering a yes. And there's one more piece that I just need to drop in here, and then it feels like it's complete, and we're almost, we can close the loop on today's transmission and journey. Let's see here. Where do I want to go with this? So what we're doing with clearing this pack, what this is really making space for is an opportunity for you to drop in. And, next week we're diving into sacred anger, which is a piece that spoke to so many women, and I totally get it. Sacred anger, sacred rage, all of these deeper feelings that we often don't know what to do with, but offer us so much deeply nutrient rich wisdom to guide our path. We're going to get into that. But what this pact is really making space for is for us to be able to drop in, to know that it is safe, that it is needed, that it is important, that we listen to our own emotions, to our own voice. And that's what intuition is, listening, right? Insight is our inner sight, right? So we are deepening into our inner sight, into our insight. It's another way we access deeper levels of intuition through emotional intelligence, really like this word intelligence. You'll probably hear it pop up a lot. And so as we move forward, we're making space for that, knowing that it is safe for you to drop in and to really access and listen and transmute and take a stand for what you need, what you want, what you desire, how pleasure can lead your life, what the vision is that you have for your life, and to do it in a way where you feel safe and supported. You know, as we clear out this pact, it's also really at an Akashic subconscious level, shifting the story around feeling like suppression and control is something that we have to buy into. You know, whether it's like where it's still sitting in our own consciousness, right? Because I talked about this internal energetic rebalancing that happens, right? So we're allowing our own powerful feminine nature to take up more space, to not feel any fear around control or limitation or suppression, knowing that she has a full right to take up space with everything that she is and everything that she feels, and all of her pleasure and all of her power and all of her expression. And we're going to continue to peel back the layers as we go, right? And that you will and can feel safe and held by the masculine. So one of the ways that you can support your own masculine by doing this is by creating the container, creating the space to drop in to do the work. So some of you have worked with me before, so you know about the Power Hour. We're changing it a little bit to the Akashic, the Way of Sacred She Akashic Journal and Pleasure Practice. And this is that space that we're carving, right? This is where we kind of create boundaries, which is more masculine. We create the sacred space to drop in that holds us while we go in and we do the deeper work, where we're connecting to new aspects and energy of our feminine essence. So you have in the back end of the portal, so this is where we're going to drop in, do the work. We're going to start to, you know, self-support ourselves and feeling safe and held to drop in, to go deeper, because remember, it's a spiral. So wherever you're at in the scope of your journey, there is an opportunity to go deeper here. And that's where the records will meet you. So the Way of She Akashic Journal you will have, my invitation is to carve out each week 3 times. 3 times, take that journal. There's 3 separate journal entries. You're going to open up and work with the Akashic field in your own Akashic record. There's a audio that you can listen to, very similar to what we did today, or there's an actual just like paper copy that you can read. You're going to work with your journal. And one of the tools that I really love to work with in terms of transmuting energy, and you can do this in the Akashic field, but you do want to be mindful to close out of the records after, and you simply just have to, I'll show you how to do that today, is movement and dance. So we use movement and dance to tap into different energies that also transmute and embody more of what it is that we're exploring for that week. So this week, of course, it's all about pleasure. So you have 3 journal entries that will take you deeper and deeper into exploring how to connect to and open up to and embody more pleasure in your life. And then there's a playlist for you to dance, move, express, transmute, and embody whatever the prompts are for that day. So definitely have fun and enjoy. If you have any questions, I feel like everyone's going to like kind of really taking everything in right now. If you have any questions, pop it in chat. You can, you know, hang out in the Facebook group. I'm definitely going to be around there. I'm just going to give it 1 second, see if anyone has any questions or comments. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thank the guides, guardians, angels, teachers, and the masters that have been present, all of the goddesses, the archetypal energy of the dark feminine, thank you for being present here today. Just knowing that the clarity, the healing, the activations, the intentions, the healing, it's all going to unfold into completion to support your highest good. And the door between the worlds is now closed. Also, make sure you drink a lot of water, because these are transmissions and we're working in a different kind of an energetic field. So lots of water, and just allow yourself to receive, get outside if you need to. And otherwise, I look forward to connecting with you next week. I'm going to post the times here shortly too for our weekly schedule. And I'm sending everyone so much love.